Hello, friends. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. I need to turn my phone off there. I'm super excited to be here with you today. Today, we have project number 2 in the holiday series, holiday paper crafting series, and a total nerd out continuation of the discussion and sharing techniques with gouache, which is opaque watercolor. And yeah, we're going to make a really fun oversized card today. I'm mashing up 3 stamp sets from my Gina K Designs collection to create this really fun project. But before we get started, let's say hello to everyone. I see everybody popping in. And I'm going to scroll back a little bit. Hi, Kathy, Judith, Donna. Oh, yeah, we're nerding out today, Donna. No worries. Hi, Dawn. I hope, the water department is next to your home. Hope all that goes okay. And hi, Catherine. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, friends. Today's tutorial is going to be super fun. Yes, we're going to nerd out a little bit, and we're going to chat a little bit. And I'm totally going to nerd out because I have 2 really fun things sitting on my desk that I'm going to share. Last week I talked about gouache. I also talked about the different kinds of gouache. We're going to touch on that again today as we are building a project together. And yeah, let's just dive in. Let's just go ahead and dive in. And here's my face. And let's just double check a few things and make sure everything looks crystal clear. It kind of does. Okay. Like right before I went live, I got this weird look. It was weird. But anyway, here's the project that we're going to make today, or something like this. This is an oversized card, a fun oversized card. This is a 5x7 card that we're going to make. Here's the projects that we made last week. Okay. And I'm keeping with the color theme throughout this entire series. Because it creates little coordinating projects. B, because you can adapt these techniques to any of the supplies you have in your stash easily. And C, because I love these color combinations for the holiday season. It's got this retro 50s look, and I love it. Thank you, Catherine. Said your hair looks lovely today. Well, I just got it colored. My sister-in-law owns a salon here in our town, and she did it for me. Otherwise, it would not look this good, believe me. Good morning, Geraldine. Very good to see you. Very good to see you. Okay. All right, friends, let's put this aside. Let's project aside. Let me find a spot to put this aside. And we're going to talk about this project today. So today, I actually got ahead of myself, and all of the supplies are listed down below in the description that we're going to be using. I think with the exception of, I probably forgot to put this in there. I am using these card watercolor blanks from Arteza. They're 100% cotton. Strathmore makes them too. I've talked about these in the past. After the live, I'll go back and add this link. But this is the card. These come in a set of 25 blank watercolor cards, and the reason why I like them is because they are 100% cotton. They also come with the envelopes. So we're using that today for our project. I'm using my Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor. The rest of the supplies are linked down below in the description, but here are the 3 stamp sets that I'm going to be using today. I'm using Merry Everything. We're going to use this tree. We're totally nerding out today. We're using our stamps for helping us to create this beautiful paper crafting art kind of like project here. And we're also mashing up the 3 stamps, and we're using our stamps as embellishments. Okay, I'm using Merriest Season of All. We're going to be using the swoosh from Merriest Season of All. And I'm using Secret Garden because I'm using the Leafery bits from Secret Garden to create the project today, to create the Leafery pieces in our project. So let's go ahead, and before we get started, let's dive in. Let's do a quick review of gouache and have our little technique that I want to share today about gouache. So last week we talked about gouache. Gouache is an opaque watercolor. That's all it is. And last week I also shared a lesson on how you can take our Gina K inks or any other ink in your stash and make that opaque watercolor look happen. So here was Shell Pink. So I'm doing a quick little nerd out review. Shell Pink is one of my favorite pinks. One of my favorite gouache brands is Holbein, which is this brand right here. And this is Shell Pink. So this is what it looked like in its full strength, its full milk strength. And this is what it looked like when I added a lot of water to it and I could really kind of get it to come down into a more transparent color. So you can see how you can go from an opaque to a transparent pretty easily. This is the example that I shared using Passionate Pink with Gina K inks, adding a little bit of opaque white, so gouache white, or you could do a P.H. Martin's white, good morning Cheryl, and create that opaque look. And then here was my favorite color, Cascade Green. And the Gina K green that closely matches it is Dark Spruce. So we took Dark Spruce and added some gouache to it to create that look. Took some of the Cascade Green and added white gouache to create that look. So just a quick little review. But I also mentioned last week we talked about gouache paints that were in tubes, which are kind of my favorites. But then I also mentioned that I had something across the room, right, that I had been experimenting with. And this is Caran d'Ache Gouache. Caran d'Ache Gouache. This is, they call it this Gouache Studio. I haven't played with it too much, but I did get it out. So this is gouache that's in a pan form. So I'm just going to like really quickly just kind of dip into one of the colors here so that you can see. This is like a phthalo-ish blue, I think. So we can just kind of add this. These kinds of gouache paints, and you might see other gouache paints like this. These kind of gouache paints that are in pans kind of remind me of the tempera paints from kindergarten. Remember those paints that came in jars and they were really chalky? That's what these kind of remind me of. But I just thought I would share it because I talked about it last week as being gouache that was available in pans. And I have found that most of the gouache pans that I've tried tend to not be as opaque as the tubes are. So total nerd out on that. And this particular brand comes with a white so that you could add more white to it to get it a little bit more opaque. So I just thought I would share that. Caran d'Ache, it's a really cute tin. Just kind of a fun art supply. I don't know that I would like it. I don't favor it over using some of the tubes or just taking the white and adding it to the watercolor you already have to create that gouache effect. I feel like I've really nerded out on gouache since this 3-part series is kind of gouache-y. So, but I hope you're enjoying it because I'm sharing the different mediums and how we can blend them together and we can mash them up. So we're using gouache, we're using Gina K inks, and we're watercoloring with inks and gouache, and we're mashing up stamps. I mean, can it get any better than that? No, I don't think it can. Okay, friends, we're going to dive into our project. Now, again, all the supplies are listed down below in the description here on YouTube. Over on Facebook, they're not there, but they will be after the live. And if you have questions along the way, my chat is over here. Just drop your questions in the chat. If it's about gouache, great. If it's about anything else, it could be about that too, as we create our project together and we chat along the way. Okay, we're going to get started with this tree shape from the Merry Everything stamp set. If you don't have this elongated triangle, you could easily draw in the triangle, or take some washi tape and tape off that triangle look. I did do that in a tutorial, and it is tagged here in my holiday series. No, it's in the pause and paint series here. I have a playlist on the channel called Pause and Paint, and last year I did a tree that we freehand painted together, and I used washi tape. So there's an example of that there. After the live, I'll go back and link that up in the description down here so that you can reference that pretty easily. But today we're using the triangle from the Merry Everything stamp set. And we're gonna start off with shell pink. We're going to stamp all of my elements on the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor. Then we're going to be adding it to our card base. So I'm going to start with shell pink. And this time, I've got my brush. I've got a number 10. Let's get that water a little closer to me. Move some things around here. I've got that number 10 brush. I'm going to dip the tip of my brush right into the paint. And I am just going to paint right on to the stamp. And I'm not so, hi Rhonda, no worries, coming in late. No worries, always have the replay. And I'm just going to paint this on, and it's not going to be perfect, and I don't care for it to be perfect. I just want to get that impression. Hi Irma, Irma just popped in. Just want to get that stamped impression with the color. Let's just stamp this down here. Oops, I rocked it a little bit, but that's okay. And see how I got that impression. I also got a little bit of that green that was left over on my stamp because I didn't clean it well, but that's okay. That's totally okay. We're going to come in here. I'm just kind of adding some water. I'm going to follow the line and just add a little bit of water on that line that I just stamped with the shell pink. And then we're going to be going in and adding. I'm getting my paper wet. I'm choked up, really choked up on the ferrule of the brush here. My paper is wet, but not super, super wet. And I'm just going to come in and just start adding some color. Adding some of this opaque shell pink. From the tip, just kind of painting this in. Now, the reason why I'm using gouache is that I really want to get a nice opaque look, really solid wash of color. Need a little bit more water there. Of this shell pink, because it's going to create the surface for stamping on top. So we're using gouache today, and we kind of did that. I'm looking for the project. We did that a little bit last week with the swan, the back of the swan. We added some stamping over top of the gouache. So see how thick this is? I'm really just kind of laying it in here thick, and I'm probably going to do a second layer. So just very, very little bit of water, and I'm just dipping my brush into the tube. You could squeeze it out, be good to go, but I'm just dipping it in the tube because I'm really kind of controlling how much I'm getting on that tip and dipping it in. If you can't get any, see how I can just squeeze it a little bit here? And I can get a good amount right on. Oops. And I'm not too worried about it going outside the edge because we're going to trim right up to the edge. Now, last week I talked about alternatives to gouache, and one being acrylic paint. And I also talked about how some acrylic paints have like a glossy finish to them. Most acrylic paints do, but there are some matte acrylic paints that don't have that glossy finish. So if you wanted to do that technique, do this technique with acrylic paint, because that's what you have in your stash, you could just double check your paint and make sure it doesn't have a glossy finish, because if it does have a glossy finish, I'm getting this a little bit wet here, and I'm going to lift up and pull away some of this paint because I want it to kind of go dark to light. If it has a glossy finish, it's going to be hard to stamp on. You're not going to get a good like a good stamp impression. See how I just pulled a little bit of that away right here to bring back the color of the paper? And that was intentional, just because I'm just going to trying to create a little contrast from dark to light. But you could easily just paint this in a solid opaque, kind of like what we did last week. See how opaque this is, but we took a little bit of back to the paper color in the swan. Okay, I'm just gonna add, I want to add a little bit more here, and then we're gonna, ooh, I got that too wet. Too wet. I had too much water on my brush. So it started to take away some of that color. All right, let's go ahead. Now I'm gonna dry this with the heat tool. Looks like I got a piece of fuzz. Yep, I did. Fuzzy fuzzies. All right, I'm gonna dry this with the heat tool, and then I'm gonna come back and probably add a little bit more. So let's go ahead and dry it. You see how this is drying? Oh. Really getting it dry. Look at that color. Look at that nice, solid. You can also hear it's got some texture to it because of the texture of the paper. I'm loving that. I'm loving the way this looks. I think I want to add, I got a couple little boopies here I want to cover up. And I think I want to add just a little bit more to the top. Right in here. Just kind of coming in with some gouache. Shell pink. Love this color. And adding a little bit more. Now, when I do add and I layer gouache on top of gouache, it does get the layer of gouache underneath it wet. And it will move it. So it's not permanent. So you can layer. If you're doing so and you want to layer and you want to get it like a little bit darker, just keep in mind that how much water you have on your brush will affect how much you're going to pull up underneath. So see how it looks kind of milky? I'm kind of drying off my brush here. I'm just going to run it over the edge here and just kind of feather that out just a little bit. And then we're going to dry it. And then that will show me that I've gotten that deeper layer of that shell paint. Okay. Love it. I love it. This is like that quintessential pink color. Reminds me a lot of the 70s and 80s. Reminds me of my childhood bedroom, right? With the pink. I loved pink. I still love pink. It's kind of my color. One of my many colors that I enjoy. So loving this, loving the way this is. You can feel, like you can hear that there's some texture there. So I feel it's nice and dry, and this gouache is matte, so it's going to give me a really nice surface to start stamping on top of. Okay, now let's get started on some stamping. I've got a couple stamps pulled here from the, oh good, I got the wrong block here though. From my most recent set, Secret Garden. And I really, really like this whimsical piece of leafery here. And here's why. It's got open leaf elements, so we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring in there. And it's got our little dots built into the stamps already. So it gives us, it's perfect for the leafery in this Christmas tree because it gives us a little bit of that extra whimsy and the dots with the dots. Okay, now we're going to use dark spruce, and my paper is kind of wonky here. If let's see, I've got some tape. If I really want it to just kind of stay still, because it's a little bit wonky, I could tape it down. This is some purple tape. Of course it's purple tape, but that's what it's called. Some purple tape, just to kind of hold this down a little bit. You could use painter's tape or whatever you have in your stash. I'm going to start with, or masking tape, whatever's an easy tape. Actually, that's kind of low. Let's bring this up. It's kind of low in the camera. Let's bring this up so that we can see it. Okay. Also, while we're doing this, drop in the chat if we've been talking about gouache last week, and I kind of have a good familiarity with everybody's experience with it. And it was one of the things that was requested by many of you for me to kind of take a deeper dive on. So I decided to do it for the holiday series. And I'm hoping that you're getting a lot of value out of these tutorials and getting to learn a little bit more how you could adapt a gouache or an opaque watercolor look with your other paper crafting supplies and kind of mash everything up together to create new looks for your projects. So, okay. Got my Leafery piece. Now I'm just going to go in and start. I've got dark spruce. Love dark spruce. I love that whole little spruce line, but I love dark spruce. We're just going to go ahead and I'm stamping, and I'm not worrying about what's going off of the edge. And I'm just going to turn my stamp and just kind of follow my lines here. And create a whoosh, whoosh, just create some stamped whooshes here. Oh, I'm loving this, loving it. And just getting all of this down. Let's see, do I want that to go this way? How do I want that to go? I think I want that to go up like that. So we've used, let me get my tidy towel. I managed to bring it out this time. We've got that Leafery going in a couple different directions. I'm digging that. I'm loving the way that looks. You could stop here and all would be well, but we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. I've got a little tiny brush here. What is this? A number 2. I'm going to use my water, and we're going to go in and start. We're going to use that dark spruce. See how it's pulling away? So the dark spruce ink is going to dry on top of the gouache, but it's going to take a couple more seconds to dry because A, we're stamping that ink on top of another surface, gouache, and B, we're stamping it on watercolor. So it is, going to take another second or so to dry. So Kathy just asked, does gouache reconstitute like watercolor? After it dries in the pan, can you add water? Yes. So part of, Kathy, while I'm sharing this painting in of the dark spruce, you can see that I am lifting up the dark spruce, but I'm also getting a little bit of the shell pink underneath, mixing with the dark spruce, and it's reconstituting it. It will reconstitute. You can add water to it, and I can make that color move on this paper, and I can do the same on a pan. So you can see that it's giving me, because it's picking up some of the shell pink, I'm adding just the tiniest bit of water to the shell pink underneath and the dark spruce, and I'm getting the opaque version of the dark spruce underneath. So we're like really getting a lot of different technique happening here. Cheryl just shared, I haven't had time to play with my white gouache other than using it for splatter. Oh, it's perfect for splatter. I feel like splatter and white gouache is kind of like like if you're using the P.H. Martin's or any other kind of white paint to do your splatter, it's sort of the gateway. It's sort of the gateway to give you the joy, like to rewire your brain to say, oh, I really am enjoying working with this. Let me see what else I can do with it. And you know me, friends, I nerd out every week because that's kind of how my brain works. I kind of look at a supply and I think, what else can I do with that? Same thing with my stamps and like all of these mashups. I'm always thinking like, what else can I do with this to kind of give me a different look or an effect that you might not have seen. I am going to fill this one in, even though it's probably going to be cut off when I go to cut it. So let's go ahead and just kind of finish this up. You can see that I'm choked up really, really far on the ferrule of this brush as well, because I'm just kind of going in and with some detail. Look at that color. I'm able to get that dark spruce to mix with the shell pink underneath and create more of an opaque version of dark spruce. Now, I could have mixed up some dark spruce and opaque white, gouache white over here and did the same thing, but why? I already had some of the shell pink underneath, and I could get it to mix with it by just simply by reconstituting it with my little tiny white brush. My little tiny brush. Okay, loving this. Now I'm just going to hit this with a little bit of heat just to make sure it's dry before we start stamping the next layer of Leafery, my little filler Leafery. And then we're also going to do a, we're also going to blend them out a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit more watercoloring. Okay. It's pretty dry. Now, what I love about the look that we've got here so far is that you've got like some really, look how opaque this is, really opaque. We're moved over here. You get a little bit more transparency in this area. So you've got some contrast between your darks and your lights. And then you've got solid stamped Leafery. And then we also have a little bit more transparency with the work that we've done inside the leaves. So just this work alone is already creating a level of interest in the project. We can see that it doesn't feel flat. It's got some 3D quality to it. We can tell what's coming forward and what's going backward in the whole composition here. Oh my gosh, that was a total big design nerd out. I hope it made sense. Okay. All right, now we're going to come in. I've got these two pieces of Leafery here that go in opposite directions that have these really whimsical little curly cues on them, and I just love them. So I wanted to bring them in to our project today. And I'm going to just go ahead. We're going to use both of them because they go in different directions. And they've got this little tiny end here, end of the Leafery, that's going to help us line it up in the design. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this. I'm not sure if I'm going to use both. We'll see. I kind of want that piece of Leafery. Yeah, I kind of want this to come down like this and come across so you can see what's going to show up there. Let's go ahead and let me look at the other one. Let's clean that one up. Let's clean that one up and let's see what this one looks like. See how I'm just looking at the Leafery and seeing if pieces are going to compete with each other, like the curly Q, and see how I feel about that. So I don't really like that one. Let's go ahead and, yep, come back to the very first thing that I said I was going to do. So let's go ahead. I'm going to line that kind of up right there. So we've got a little bit of that curly Q happening there. And then let's take a peek at what it's going to look like over here. Don't know if I love that. So I'm going to take my finger and take off what's happening in that curly Q and let that go. See how I just kind of took that ink off? A little bit of it is showing up, but Got a question from Cheryl. If using this for a Christmas card, thinking putting some gold gel pen on top of a few of the dots. Now, she said now the little gray cells are working. Yes, and we're going to be doing some gold. So Cheryl, we're going to get to that because I'm going to do the same. Okay, my brush is wet. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the Leafery here and just kind of activate that a little bit. And that's why I have this really pointed, really, really sharp and very small brush, because I am following that little curly cue that I did and just kind of activating it just to give it a little extra. Adding a little bit of water so we get a little bit of a watercolor effect with that Leafery. Digging it. Okay, clean off my brush. Come in here, doing the same. Oh. So friends, these are the Christmas projects that I've done so far is what I've shared with you all and what I've made for releases. So people will be getting the things that I've made and we're going to go from there. All right, I'm digging this. I'm going to leave it for now. And then I'm going to take this off because we're going to also use a flower image. Now, you could easily grab, I'm going to use the flower image from Secret Garden. I really like this flower. As you know, a lot of the flowers that I draw in my Gina K collections are graphic in nature. They could be any kind of flower you want them to be simply by changing the color of the flower. You could also use the poinsettia pieces or even this really cute lily flower. This is supposed like a Christmas lily. You could use that flower if you want, or any flower in your collection to create or replicate this design. Okay, I'm looking for my little block. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down in dark spruce. Again, working with dark spruce. Look at that. And shell pink today. So the version of Gina K inks that closely match shell pink would be Innocent Pink. I should have grabbed that. I'm stamping this down 3 times. Let's just go this way with it. And then we're going to use the dark spruce that's here. I'm still using my small brush. And just right from the middle, got a lot of water on there. Right from the middle here, just activate that little bit of dark spruce. Gosh, I love that color so much. It is the Gina K equivalent of Cascade Green. The Daniel Smith Cascade Green that I love so much. And all I'm doing here is just using what's here and watercoloring, creating that watercolor look. I don't want the whole flower to be colored in. I do want some of that white from the paper to kind of show up. And if you get a little bit of a hard line, that's okay. Just kind of tidy it up a little bit by scrubbing the edge with a clean brush. But I'm kind of liking the way that looks. Now, I'm going to cut these out real quick. And we are going to die cut them, friends. Because guess what? Here, let's just cut this out like this. I'm going to set this aside. We're going to use this in a minute as we start to build. Dun, dun, dun! I talked about this. It came. It came yesterday. So I'm so excited. And the reason why is I've had a die cut cam like over there that to show die cutting in the past, because I didn't want to bring this big honkin' die cutter in here. And I felt like it got a little clunky trying to like negotiate going over there and having sound, right? Having sound. So when Gina released this, I think it just got released in November. Like when she released this, I was like, oh my gosh, Look at it. It's like this tiny, cute little purse. And I really like the intricate. I actually have gotten rid of all of my other die cutters in favor of the intricate, and the reason why I like it is because it's a lot easier on my wrists, and I feel like I have more success with these. So I'm loving this intricate, this little baby, because it's perfect for filming, and it's also just perfect for sharing this with you instead of you guys watching me fussy cut things. Okay, here's the coordinating die, and I'm just doing this upside down and backwards here. Here's the coordinating die for that little bloom that's available in the bundle with Secret Garden. Just going to put a little piece of tape on this, and we're going to run this through 3 times. And it's just so cute. It's just so cute. This handle's really easy to do. And I know that there's other, look at that. I don't always die cut well. And for me, it's because of a lack of patience usually. I'm just so into getting a project where my brain thinks it should be. So sometimes I don't put the tape down and line things up, but I'm doing it right now. All right, so I'm running this through. I just love this little mini. It's super, super cute. It's perfect for the kind of projects that I do where I'm using our stamps as embellishments. So, you know, getting the big one out, I get the big one out when I'm preparing for a new release, and we're doing, you know, all different kinds of sizes of things, especially like I'm using master layouts. But holy smokes, how fun is this little guy, little gal, little intricate mini for filming. Okay, I've got my 3 little embellies. I just love it. And then I'm just going to stick my die. I'm actually just going to stick her back on here so I don't lose her. And I'll put her back. So cute little plates. Got the top plate, the bottom plate. Very, very cute. Very cute. You can check it out, GinaKDesigns.com. I don't even think I linked it down below in the description. Pretty sure I didn't. Super cute. Phenomenal price, I think, too. Like, yeah, just fantastic. Love it. Love it, Gina. Love it, love it, love it. And I ordered it. I was like, do I really need another die cutter? No. But I ordered it specifically for our lives so that we could use it together. And you could see me actually die cut an embellishment out instead of fussy cutting. All right, now back to fussy cutting. I am going to cut this tree out. It's perfectly dry now. I am going to cut this tree out because it is a very easy shape to cut. So I intentionally stamped all of those elements off the edge, knowing that we were going to trim them out. So super, super easy to just make that go away. There is a coordinating die for this stamp in Merry Everything, but coordinating dies will also give you a little bit of a white edge. You can see the little tiny white edge around that embellishment. It will give you a little bit of a white edge around your stamped image, and I didn't really want that with this. A, because your images that we stamped off the edge will show up, and B, because I really wanted that crisp edge, and this shape is super easy to cut. Just following the line of my stamped image. Geraldine just says, why is that little whatevers are so cute? But it's true. They are. They are. And I'm pretty sure, like, in my lifetime, I had a tiny die cutter, but I didn't enjoy that experience until I got this one. And for me, part of creating, whether I'm creating a watercolor project, a paper crafting project, whether I'm baking or cooking, for me, it isn't always about the outcome of the project. I'm never really thinking about the outcome. And I think I talked about this last week. I'm really focused on the process. So if the process is enjoyable to me, like using the products, playing with them, using things, if the process is enjoyable, the outcome is the bonus, right? I enjoy the process of it, and I learn a lot about myself and what I enjoy doing if the process is fun. Let me know in the chat if that's something that makes any sense to you all, and if that's something that you find that's kind of resonates with you. Okay, now here's our card base, our watercolor card base. We could have done the entire project on this watercolor card base because it's thick enough, but I really wanted that effect of some 3D quality to it for this card without a lot of height and really just honing in on the use of our stamps. So I'm bringing in the swoosh from the, what stamp set was up? Oh, I put that. Oh, Merriest Season of All. My last two holiday stamp set are Merry Everything and Merriest Season of All, so I easily could get that mixed up. Okay, so we're going to bring in the swoosh that we used last week here. See that swoosh? We're going to bring in that swoosh. And I want to use it as an abstract element behind the tree. But first, what I'm going to do is just take a little pencil and I'm going to do some really quick pencil marks just to give me an indicator as to where my tree is, so that when I stamp my swoosh, I kind of have an idea of where that tree is. Now, I could eyeball it, and I would probably be pretty accurate, but hey, use a pencil. Why not, right? Geraldine just shared, so very true. It is the process always. You could totally relate. Yeah, for me, and tell me, friends, I'm going to share something that it's like the total nerd in me is going to come out. I'm wetting the back of my stamp because it's pretty dirty and it's not sticking to my block. So I'm just kind of cleaning it up. I'm not really good with cleaning my stamps. So the me version or the paper crafter version of me that cleans is not a thing. I'm hoping to work on that. So, okay. Cheryl just said, I agree. Recently, I realized it's the process and seeing the results that is more enjoyable, even with the happy mistakes. Absolutely. So for me, it's always about the process. Like, okay, I got these supplies or these colors, and I want to bring them together, and I just kind of want to play. So what's my process going to be? I'm less worried about the outcome. So when I prepare for these lives, I don't prepare really super far in advance. I usually kind of have an idea in my head. Sometimes the day of, or maybe late in the day before, I might execute it so I can see if it like really is an actual thing that can be made in my head. But most of the time I'm coming in and I'm like, I can visualize it. Like I can close my eyes and I can see it and I can see myself doing it. So that's kind of the process that I go through. I'm a very, very visual person. You may relate to this. I can close my eyes and I can see me actually doing it in color. And what that process looks like. Same thing like with a room. If I'm redesigning a room or I'm moving furniture or whatever, I can close my eyes and just kind of reconfigure it in my mind. Move the mental furniture around, and I can say, yeah, that's going to work. Same thing like with paint color or buying things. Yeah, it's just something that I have. It's me. I've always been this way, and I have found it incredibly useful. So now it doesn't always translate over to things like baking, which I really like to do. And I'm really about the process of baking, and I enjoy that. But sometimes the outcome's not the same. And I've made some crappy things lately that just haven't worked out. So Okay, I've got some fresh asparagus here, and I'm going to do like a little abstract swooshy swoosh going down the paper here, going down our watercolor paper. Just ink it up. I'm going to just kind of start up here and then do another in the thirds down here. And I am just rotating a little bit. And doing a little bit off the bottom here. And now we're going to, let me just clean that off just to show that I'm making progress in cleaning things, right? Clean as I go. My dad used to say that when we were kids. Clean as you go, like encouraging us to try to pick up after ourselves and clean, like clean our dishes as we go. So every once in a while when I say that, like clean as you go, I hear him in my head. So kind of fun. All right, I've got a wet brush and we're just going to go ahead and just swoosh. Just encourage our little swoosh a little bit more to get a little bit of bleeding of that fresh asparagus color. Just a little, just a swoosh. Just to kind of give it that washy watercolor effect. And all I'm doing is just applying the water and following that brush line. Just coming off that edge a little bit. Super fun. Super, super fun. Okay, I'm going to do that here. My husband just texted me. He just caught that live. We'll have to read that later. Okay. I'm just kind of swooshing that out. Friends, we were talking about process. So for me, like with baking or cooking or when I'm doing something, my process too, the things that make it enjoyable for me, again, not so much the outcome, is trying it and also the vessel in which I cook it in or bake it in. Like I want that experience to be really enjoyable. So I use like good baking and good cooking supplies to kind of make that happen. So that's kind of the enjoyable part for me. And then when it comes out, you taste it, you're good to go, and then I'm done. I'm ready to move on to the next thing. So kind of fun. Cheryl just said, I just need to corral my supplies so I don't spend so much time trying to find things. Cheryl, same. I don't have a dedicated space for crafting, usually the dining room table. I used to just not have a dedicated office space. I used to, just drying this real quick, just have a little, like a 3-drawer thing where I just had supplies in, especially when my kids were younger, were littles, and I was, you know, a freelancer like I am now, and, you know, I needed to be where they were. So Catherine just said, wonderful memory of your dad. Clean as you go is such a zen balance. I wish I could follow the clean as you go when I know that I feel like when I do follow it and I do it, I feel so much tidier. My office space right now, my excuse me, my studio space, excuse me, is the dumping ground right now for all the Christmas stuff, the Christmas presents, which I just got moved out of here and moved to another room so I could start wrapping. But it is kind of a dumping ground right now, and in this winter we're redoing the space, ripping up carpet, redoing the walls, and reconfiguring the space and downsizing a couple of the things that are in here. So I kind of haven't been doing such a hot job of clean as I go. Okay, I am just taking a little bit of foam tape and putting it on the back of our tree here. Let's get a nice little triangle piece. It's a little thick. And not a lot of height, just a little bit of height here. A little bit of foam tape. Boop, boop, boop. Where's my foam tape? There we go. Just pop that back on. So corralling your supplies. I did a massive edit of supplies lately. I have accumulated a lot over the last 20 years. I got boxes and boxes of things that I put together. I donated some to local school. I gave some to friends who has passed them on too. So I feel like, and I did that with my watercolor supplies because I had quite a bit. So now that I've got this tree, that outline of the tree, it is giving me the ability to just kind of like go back to where I was and line that up. Oh, I love this. And we've got that swoosh, that abstract swoosh behind it, sort of like a little bit of wind, sort of like a little bit of wind. I'm going to come in. I've got my 3 little embellishments here. Ooh, and a little bit of glue. Just going to add a little dot right here of glue. And I'm going to pop these in and have these little floral pieces. Actually, I want that one to kind of be over here a little bit. Have these little florals, maybe just go over off the edge a little bit, especially up here. Like right here, we're going to have it go off the edge a little bit. There was a little bit of negative space right there, so it fit in there very nicely. And there's a little bit of negative space, maybe like right here off that edge. Fits in there very, very nicely. Okay. Let's go ahead and pop that in. Move that in a little bit. So we've got that kind of whoosh look. I kind of put it right here. Like that would have looked good there too. Let me just kind of... Nope, I'm not going to. Irma just said loving this. I'm gonna, I don't know, my eye keeps pulling me in that direction a little bit. So let me just pull this off. Yep, I gotta put it there. I just gotta put it there. See that negative space right there? My eye keeps drawing. My brain keeps telling my eyes, and I'm drawn there. So when you're creating, if you're looking at your piece and you see something, trust your intuition is what I'm saying. If you see something that feels a little bit off, usually if you've created some negative space, I like negative space because it creates a little space for your eye to rest. But in this case, I didn't enjoy it because I really wanted my embellishment to kind of be there. And I'm digging that. Now, to ground the whole tree, we need, I could just draw in the stump, but instead I'm going to use the stamp Joy from the Merriest Season of All stamp set because it has that shape. We're going to use some Obsidian. Just get that nice and juicy. And then just kind of line it up in the middle, kind of lined up with the tip there. I'm giving it some good pressure because we've got Obsidian. It's an amalgam ink. It's perfect. But on my watercolor paper here, I really want to get a decent impression. I kind of overdid it there on the bottom. I kind of smooshed a little bit too much, but that's okay. We're letting it ride. And that kind of creates that look of the stump in the tree. So I'm kind of digging that. Kind of digging it. Now let's just bring it all home with a little bit of detail. With a little bit of metallics. We brought it all home last week with some metallics. And look at how they dried. Oh my gosh, they're just so delightful. I'm going to use the tip of my brush here and get my gold metallic nice and juicy. You can see how juicy it is. Oops. But I'm going to focus on getting it really juicy in that tip because we're going to go in and add some of just really intentional dots. You could splatter if you wanted to, but I'm not going to splatter today. I'm just going to just keep hitting it with the tip. And look how far I can go with this gold. I've got so much on here. I'm going to come in, add some gold to the center of my embellishments here. Let's get a little more gold. and just keep going. Now I've got the nature of that stamp, we've got little dots already happening in the tree. So I'm not going to add too much gold to the tree. My left hand keeps touching things that it shouldn't. Just going to add a few little dots, little metallic dots. Kind of digging it. Now, you could also use like a Q-tip for this, just to get like a really perfect round. But the more I press down, see, the more I can get different shapes with my brush. So again, we're already using our brush. We don't need a lot of different supplies to create. Round brushes are really good for this kind of effect. Let's add a little tiny bit of gold right here. And you could definitely overdo this. So if you, here's my theory on stopping. If you start to feel like you're overdoing it, like I am right now, I need to stop. I'm going to stop and just let it be. And just let these dry. And I'm really loving the way it came out. Except for my little sploosh down here. But whatever. Yeah, I love, Dawn just said, I love the joy for the stump. I do too. Now, some of the things I could have done to kind of made this a little bit different is maybe just bring this up a little bit. But what we have here is a 2/3 and a 1/3. So the bulk of the design, here comes the nerd out. The bulk of the design or the composition of this card is in the bottom 2/3. So it's kind of bringing your eye down, which is fine because it's bringing our eye down to our sentiment of joy. But if you wanted to really create a centered look, you just pop it up a little bit more so that you had kind of equal amounts of the tree design in the thirds of the space. So, okay. All right, friends. So here was the little one that I did this morning just to kind of play around. And then here is the next one. They both look great. See how this one, I've got that bloom kind of coming off the bottom. So we've got that look going this way. And then this one, we have that look going this way, which with our Leafery, we had kind of a look going this way, right? And then the blooms go in the opposite direction. So it does create some design composition contrast, which is really, really nice. Digging it, digging it, digging it. Okay, friends, we made it in an hour, on a holiday project in an hour, and a lot of nerding out and some good tutorial content in today's tutorial. I hope you really enjoyed today's paper crafting project. I will be back next Thursday with the last in our holiday series. And I'm kind of hedging on what it's going to be. We've done a tag, we've done a card, and I really kind of have this feeling like we should do an ornament. So pop in the chat if you think an ornament would be a really fun idea. And we would be creating an ornament using our stamps. We're gonna talk about gouache more. We're gonna really bring that home. And yeah, we're gonna create a really, really fun project. Okay, friends. Catherine just said lower makes it look closer and invites you in and makes it look bigger. You're right. You're absolutely right. And you can see I did basically the same concept over here in my other one. Let me just pop my camera down. They are very similarly in the thirds. They're very similar in how I designed them. But anyway. Okay, friends, I'm sending you into the weekend to craft your joy. I know it's Thursday, but, you know, Friday's a wash around the holidays, right? Friday's a wash. Rhonda just said, I love the idea of making an ornament. Dawn said, I'd love the idea of making an ornament. Yay, I'm excited. Donna said yes to the ornament too. Catherine said yes to the ornament too, or yes to this. I'm not sure with this little delay. Okay, friends, I'm sending you into the weekend to craft your joy. And last week, real quick, last week I talked about my brand new community at Craft Your Joy Lab. It's launched, friends. I told you that like it was going to launch in like a week or something. I launched it on Friday. It was ready to roll. Many of you already know about it because you've gotten You've gotten my email and the information's been in there, but if you haven't, it's listed down below in the description. I love this space. We already have 25 members from our community and in here in the new community space. So please go check it out at craftyourjoylab.com. And this is your invitation. It's a free space, and I am doing things in there that I'm not doing anywhere else. So super, super fun. Everybody's saying yes to the ornaments. So that sounds like that's what we're going to do. Okay, friends, have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. And don't forget to check out the Craft Your Joy Lab, craftyourjoylab.com. Love it. Okay, friends. Bye now.